This is Leah Terechansky with the Real News in Jerusalem, where behind me, tonight 26 Israelis and one international are going to be released after spending the night in jail. They were arrested yesterday in Sheikh Jarrah in East Jerusalem for protesting against the settlers' takeover of Palestinian homes. Last Friday, 24 activists were arrested in the same place and were released on condition that they will not return to Sheikh Jarrah.
זאת לא מדינה של משטרה, היא יכולה להיות מדינה של דמוקרטיה וצדק, ואני מאוד מקווה שבקרוב בעזרתכם רבותיי אני אחזור לבית שלי ותהיה מזרח ירושלים בירת פלסטין בקרוב, אני מאוד מקווה.
What's interesting about the repression is that it seemed very planned. Last week we had 24 arrestees, this week we had 27, and we hear the police saying, is there any more room for arrestees before arresting any others? And these demonstrations every Friday started 2 months ago when some human rights activists here in Jerusalem decided to come to the neighborhood every Friday to demonstrate against the settlement and against the violence.
A wave of Israeli repression against activists has been on the rise since the push by Palestinian civil society for the Goldstone Report. Grassroots organizations such as those fighting the annexation of their lands by Israel's segregation wall in Neilin and Be'alin have witnessed this firsthand. Night raids, kidnappings and arrests have led to the detention of prominent human rights workers in recent months. According to Adamir, an organization fighting for prisoners' rights, Israel currently holds in detention 7,122 Palestinian political prisoners. According to the organization's latest report, since its occupation of the West Bank in 1967, Israel set up a separate military legal system for Palestinians. For example, Palestinians can be interrogated for 8 days before being brought to a judge, while Israelis only 24 hours. Palestinians can be held for up to 90 days or 3 months without access to a lawyer, while Israelis 21 days. And a judge can approve to extend detention for Israelis for 90 days, while for Palestinians it is 6 months. In fact, while the Israeli activists were waiting for their friends' release from the Jerusalem court, across the street in an Israeli jail called the Russian Compound, Jamal Jum'ah, the coordinator of the Stop the Wall campaign, was being held without charge and without the right to see a lawyer. Jum'ah is the latest and most high-profile targeted arrest in the West Bank, and his detention is expected to bring about strong international pressure. At the end of October, The Real News spoke to Jum'ah at the Alternative Information Center's conference on organized resistance in the occupied territories.
You spoke about steadfastness, struggle. Can you explain what is happening right now on the street?
We are talking about the legitimate right of the Palestinian people to resist this and to say no to this occupation. So that's what we are calling it, steadfastness. Say no to the occupation. Stand up and fight it, resist it. What's going on now on the ground is like this popular committees that started to go into demonstrations, marching to the wall, marching to the areas, their land that they can't reach because of the settlements, because of the checkpoint, and trying to raise their voice loud, trying to run also international campaign to take the voice of the Palestinian people outside. So Palestinians organizing themselves in the villages, in the cities, in like what looks like a kind of a popular movement to say no to the occupation. This didn't come from nowhere. The Palestinian people have been practiced this kind of resistance in the first Intifada, when the Palestinian people have been going to the streets all over from Rafah to Jenin against the occupation with their bodies, with their hands, without any weapons.
Do you foresee that there will be a day when there will be the political will for Israel to actually dismantle the settlements?
We are optimistic. As a people in general, we are optimistic in spite of all the darkness that we are now seeing from the analysis from the political situation. So we believe strongly that this occupation will end. And this is apartheid systems and regimes, and racism will be finished also. There is no occupation can continue and last forever, especially if the peoples don't accept it. So we are sure that one day, and it will be soon, that these settlements will disappear, like the French settlements disappear from Algeria.
Prominent human rights activists have been arrested at an increasing rate in recent months. For example, Mohammed Srour was stopped at the Jordanian border with Israel while trying to return from Geneva. There, he testified in front of the Goldstone Commission for witnessing the shooting of 2 Nailin residents by Israeli forces at a solidarity demonstration during the war in Gaza. Other cases include the highly publicized arrest of Mohammed Athman, who was also detained while trying to return to the West Bank. Human rights groups allege his arrest is connected to his advocacy for the boycott movement, as he was returning from a tour in Norway where he spoke about the campaign. After 2 months of interrogations and alleged torture, Israeli forces could not find evidence for his arrest, and therefore the court ruled to keep him jailed under a military detention. Another prominent activist, Abdallah Abu Rahma, is a leading figure in the nonviolent struggle against the wall in Beilin. He was kidnapped from his home by masked Israeli soldiers in the middle of the night, a week before Jamal Juma was jailed. The Real News spoke to Magda Mohrabi of Adamir, the Prisoners Support and Human Rights Association based in Ramallah.
According to the Israeli military orders that are applied to the occupied Palestinian territory, pretty much every aspect of Palestinian political, social or civil life is actually criminalized.
So what do you know about what happened to Jamal Juma?
Jamal Juma was arrested on the 18th of December, I believe. After he was summoned for interrogation to Kalandia military base. Then after a few hours of interrogation, he was taken back to his home, family home, where the Israeli authorities searched his house and confiscated his personal files, his laptop computer, and his cell phone. Although he is a Jerusalem resident, and he should be detained under Israeli law. His detention is now determined by the Israeli military orders, and the law that applies to his detention is the Israeli military orders, which means that he can be held without any charges for up to 90 days. He can be barred from access to his attorney for 90 days as well. He is currently barred from access to his attorney.
Back in Jerusalem, while Israeli activists were released one by one, the fate of Jamal Juma remains unknown.